This podcast is a proud member of the Unidentified Network.
So now, ladies and gentlemen, live and in colour, it's Mr. Wayne Lovejuice.
The other day I produced a Louis, had a chat with an interesting chappie who said that the YouTube algorithms really aren't that happy. If a channel only broadcasts once a week, so we decided we could text ya whenever we've got a piece of news in our new book on the track Extra. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name's John Downs. I'm the director of the Centre for Fortune Zoology. This is my little cat, Lilith, and this here on my iPad is Ve Macrinnon. Say hello.
Ah,
Yes, he's here. Ve Macrinnon, my old friend and sometimes sparring partner in this show. He is with us through the magic of an Apple iPad. And welcome to another episode of On the Track Extra. For those of you who don't know, every Wednesday evening at 6:30, and this is one of the Wednesday evening ones, and every Saturday afternoon at 3, we bring you a mélange, a mishmash, a mixture, a montage, a miscellany. Indeed, Mr. Macrinnon, and all sorts of other things beginning with M, including Macrinnon, of hard science, weird shit, and surreality. What's surreality? Mr. Macrinnon, what's surreality?
it's a sort of semi-humorous juxtaposition of absurdity with reality.
That's a pretty damn good way of putting it, Mr. Macrinnon. And so we bring you that of hard science, blah, 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 surreality, blah, 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 blah. And we're here to talk about that. And in particular, we're bringing you some tortoise and turtle tales. Well, the first story we have for you comes courtesy of Bob Skinner and from Miss Daisy, who both sent it at almost exactly the same time. And it tells the story of an unusual inhabitant of one of the towns in the Lake District. Now, this is actually not just a story of an out-of-place animal in northern England. We have plenty of them, and they're always interesting, but this one actually has serious cryptozoological implications. Recently, an alligator snapping turtle was found living in a Lake District town, and a town, for those of you who haven't read Swallows and Amazons, is a pool or pond. And the interesting thing about this is that although common snapping turtles have been found having been released into British ponds and rivers many times over the years, alligator snapping turtles are not only much larger, but they are from the much warmer southern states of the United States. And for many years there have been stories of snapping turtles that are far too big to be common snapping turtles in the waters of the far northern United States and parts of Canada. And over the years people have said, well, they must be either a gene of gigantism within the snapping turtle population, because common snapping turtles cannot get to the size that people are reporting, or they have to be a new species, because the most obvious explanation for these things, which is that they are out of place alligator snapping turtles, could not possibly be the case, because they would not survive in the cold waters of the northern USA and southern Canada, or, for that matter, in the cold waters of a tarn in Cumbria. But now there has been a alligator snapping turtle found in a tarn in Cumbria, where the local authorities were very pleased that they'd retrieved it, because they said that the creature, which had been nicknamed Fluffy, I think Fluffy, yes, Mr. Macrinnon, I think Fluffy is actually something from one of the Harry Potter movies. But
it's a dragon.
Is it? I thought it was the dog with 3 heads.
I thought it was a dragon. Well, I could be wrong.
I could be wrong.
I haven't actually seen any of the Harry Potter movies.
Well, I've read the book. I have seen the movies and I've read the books. And
well, you're probably right then.
Well, I haven't read them for a while, and I can't remember whether it was. I thought it was the 3-headed dog in the first of the series, but I can't really remember. But my ex-wife, my first wife, always used to say that whenever I got an animal that was fierce or dangerous looking, I ought to give it a sweet name, because animals always grew the way that the name pronounced they would be, which is why my first Amphiuma, rather than be called something like Satan Eel or something, was called Cuddles.
Well, it's funny you say that, because do you remember I told you that my cat, Moggy Malloy, it was a rescue. I called her Moggy Malloy to start with because she was a real roughy-tufty character, and if you moved your hand to smooth her or stroke her at all, she would go and start going foot 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 and try and slap you with her paw. And it took me months before I was actually able to sneak my hand in from the back of the sofa and just start stroking her on the back of the head. And once she did that, once she felt that, she would calm down and she wouldn't actually have a go at you for touching her. But if she saw your hand coming towards her, she would freak out. And after about 6 months of this, I decided that it wasn't fair to call her Moggy Malloy anymore, because she wasn't a roughy-tufty. She was a sweet, cuddly little puss who would just jump up on your lap and purr at you until you started stroking her. So I called her Fluffy after that.
That's nice. And so Fluffy the turtle was just about to eat everything in the tarn, according to the authorities.
Okay.
And so it's probably a good job that she didn't eat everything in the tarn. I don't know why I'm calling her she. It's because I got distracted by your story of Fluffy and Moggy Malloy. But yeah, it does prove one thing, which is potentially of great interest, and that is that alligator snapping turtles can survive and live quite happily in cold northern waters.
Yes, and I suspect that American alligators can do the same thing.
Well, it would explain quite a lot, because there are reports of out-of-place alligators of much larger sizes than the little ones, which obviously escape pets, which have been recovered over the years. So that's quite an interesting. I think that's quite an interesting addition to the amount of knowledge we have about the giant turtles in North America. So, are there a bona fide new unknown species of giant turtle in North America? The Lord alone knows. But this is another piece of evidence against it. And now we have another testudini tale, and this one isn't so pleasant. There is a little woodland north of Exeter where I used to walk my old dog Toby back in the day. And very recently something really nasty and macabre has been found there, because in the last few weeks, at the time that we're recording this, there have been so far 9 Aldabran giant tortoises found dead there. Now we need to look a bit about giant tortoises. There are only 2 species. Now, it depending, I can hear all of you shouting at me, but what about all the different species of Galapagos giant tortoises that Darwin found? Well, okay, let me rephrase. There are 2 types of giant tortoise. You've got the Aldabran giant tortoise, which is found in a atoll in the Seychelles and nowhere else in the world except now apparently in a woodland north of Exeter. And in the Galapagos Islands you've got a whole complex of different species or different subspecies depending who you talk to, some of which are extinct and some of which are still alive and kicking, and some of which occasionally become rediscovered even though they were thought to be extinct. But that is a completely different story, and I'm not going to get sidetracked onto talking about Darwin and the Galapagos giant turtles, or else we will never get this episode finished.
Tortoises.
Tortoises, what did I say?
Turtles.
Did I? Of course. Why is it that our colonial
Because
Chinese...
we were talking about Americans always doing that and how annoying it is.
It is, because tortoises are the ones that live on land.
Mm.
Turtles are the ones that live in the sea, or some of them in fresh water. Terrapins, although technically they are only the Carolina terrapin, are generally in English what we call the small freshwater turtles with hard shells. The ones with soft shells are known as turtles, and the snapping turtles are known as turtles. But Americans, for some reason, call all 3 different groupings turtles. Yes. And I got completely sidetracked then. Right on, thank you for pointing me out with that, V. Now, what on earth are 9 dead Seychelles Aldabran giant tortoises doing in a wood in Exeter? First of all, before anybody makes any fatuous remarks, and I'm not talking about you, V, you're never fatuous, or when you are, you do it for comedic effect. What I want to make sure, though, is that nobody in the wider cryptozoology community who's watching this show, and I hope you're enjoying it, thinks that I'm advocating an unknown species of giant tortoise in southern England. I'm not. They are obvious ones. They have obviously come from captivity. But they're incredibly expensive to buy. About 20 years ago, when I was working with a local zoo, who we shall not name, I was finding that the cost of buying an Aldabran giant tortoise from a breeder and dealer in Germany was about £3,000, and that was 20 years back. I've had sorry.
And that's without the CITES licensing and everything as well, isn't it?
Well, yeah, because both Galapagos and Aldabran giant tortoises are Group 1 CITES, and that costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
So you've got somebody who has managed to obtain some of these, legally or illegally, has reared them till they have got to a pretty damn big size. I haven't got enough evidence yet as to whether they are fully adult or not, but either they have died in captivity and the owners have decided not to bury them and not to have them incinerated, which would be the eco-safe, the biohazardous way of dealing with it, and have dumped the bodies in these woodlands, or even worse, have released at least 9 giant tortoises to die in the cold English winter. Either it's a horrible and really, really upsetting story.
Can I interject here and say that it's just occurred to me actually that it's possible, if it's happened recently, it's possible that there could be some more out there that are in a torpor and are going to die if they're not found, so maybe there should be a search for them.
Yeah, that's a thing maybe Richard and Jackie should be doing.
Yes.
Because Richard used to be head of reptiles at Twycross Zoo.
Yeah, he's a good tracker.
He's a good tracker. Jackie is apparently a good tracker as well.
Oh, cool.
Although I've never worked with, so I don't know, but I know they both watch this show. So I think if you're watching, guys, this is something I think you ought to take on board.
Yeah, ASAP.
Yes.
The weather.
And I'm just wondering who it was who did it.
Yeah, I think it's a damn good beating or a serious years in prison for whatever. Because there's one thing that we can say for sure. However they came to be there, through human negligence and idiocy, irresponsibility.
Yes, I can't think of any other excuse or explanation for them being there. Didn't you say, V, when we were talking about this earlier, that the police are at the moment questioning somebody?
Well, there was a report, there was a headline report saying that the police are questioning somebody in connection with this. But I also got a cursory sense that that if you did have these creatures, and they are precious because all of these creatures are endangered, if you had 9 or more of these creatures in your care, and you couldn't afford to keep them in care, it seems that you would have to get a special CITES license in order to rehome them, which would make it extremely difficult and extremely expensive for somebody who couldn't afford to keep them anyway to deal with it responsibly, and so it would place a financial burden on them that might cause them to just dump them in the countryside.
The thing that I'm wondering is what sort of person has property, the premises big enough to put 9 animals of that size in.
Yeah.
Because even in zoos I've never seen more than 1 or 2 in a paddock.
They could have been kept in a barn and being fed from a vegetable garden or something.
It's a very, very peculiar story, and
it is, yeah.
Although I have absolutely no idea what the answer to the mystery is, I look forward to finding out.
Yeah. I'm quite angry about it, to be honest. I can't really react in any other way, really, when you consider how rare and how beautiful and how what the potential that they have for living for hundreds of years, much longer than a human being, and some dumb human gets to gets to annihilate them through their idiocy like that. That's just it's very, very annoying.
Yeah, I understand your anger and I share it. I'm remarkably upset about it as well.
Yes.
We will keep you abreast of the news, and you can see that V is really upset because I said breast and he didn't snigger. I'll keep you. We will keep you abreast of the news. And that's about it for this episode. I want to say a big thank you to V for joining me, and to Miss Daisy and Bob Skinner for sending me the stories in the first place, the story of the snapping turtle in the first place. In fact, Daisy sent me this story as well, the giant tortoise story. So particularly thank you to you, Daisy, my dear. We'll be back on Saturday. I don't know what we're going to be talking about on Saturday, but V and I are probably going to be recording it this afternoon. So we'll see you on Saturday, and I'm going to be watching it on Saturday. Are you going to be watching on Saturday, Mr. Macrinnon?
I certainly am.
So, Mr. Macrinnon, if you up in Bristol are going to be watching, and I'm here doing the live chat and stuff, I'll be seeing you.